Florence Scovel Shinn said, "The imagination has been called the scissors of the mind, and it is ever cutting, cutting day by day the pictures man sees there, and sooner or later he meets his own creations in his outer world." I want to talk today a little bit about imagination and what you envision for yourself in your mind. We spend, I think, a lot of time envisioning right now. A lot of people spend a lot of time envisioning negative things happening. We envision all the things that could go wrong. How many people do that? Envision all the things that could go wrong. But Leslie, I'm just trying to prepare. I'm trying to imagine all the things that could go wrong so that I can be prepared for what I'm going to do when they go wrong. I love to say we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, right? I prefer not to imagine all the things that could go wrong, partly because I know how important imagination is, but also because I will deal with that. Like if something goes wrong, we'll deal with that because how many times in life has something gone wrong that you couldn't have prepared for, that you couldn't have anticipated, and you dealt with it, right? So you've done it already. Everybody has to do that at some point in time or another. And it's usually okay. It'll usually work out okay. Um, and if it doesn't, you still deal with it, right? You deal with it in whatever best way that you can. That's part of why you want to do the emotional healing work is because then you have a lot more resilience to deal with those things when they do happen. But we're talking about imagination. So imagination, when you imagine something for yourself, you are more likely to bring it into reality. I didn't look this up, but they have done these studies where they will take like basketball players and they'll take them into a few different groups. And one group will practice free throws and they get their baseline, right? Here's how we all did. And then one group will for 30 days or something practice free throws. Another group will not do anything for 30 days. Another group will imagine that they are practicing free throws for the next 30 days. And the cool thing about when you imagine it is that you can imagine it going exactly how you want it to go. So when you imagine practicing free throws, you can imagine it going into the hoop every single time. At the end of the 30 days, they take their three groups and they check again. How did you improve over the last 30 days? Not surprisingly, the group that didn't practice at all also didn't improve at all. The group that practiced every day improved a certain percentage. And the group that mentally rehearsed, that imagined themselves practicing free throws every day, they improved almost as much as the ones who actually practiced every day. There was actual improvement there. Yes, you have to take action to get things done in life, but your imagination, like that is part of the action that you should take. It's not the whole action you should take. It's one piece of the action that you should take is in your imagination. I want you to think back to things that you have imagined in the past and notice what has come to your reality. So I think I've mentioned that my family lived 4.5 years in an RV. If you haven't seen it on here, I was actually in my RV when I first started my YouTube channel. So you can go back and see some of the places we were. We didn't necessarily show our RV or our travels much. I was talking about other things, but that was something that I imagined daily for a long time. Um, I was working in an office where I had no windows and it was just this little tiny office and it was just me in this little office. I had other people in the building with me, but just a few, and it was very quiet and I was doing something I didn't like. So the people that I worked with were lovely, but I didn't like the work. And I went in every day into this room with no windows. And I would go sit in my car for lunch because at least when I was sitting in my car, I would be away from my desk for one, away from the computer, and I could sit and look at the trees. There was a little cluster of trees right out there. So I could sit and I could watch the birds and listen to the birds and feel the sunshine and look at the trees. And I'm a big nature girl, so I like to be outside in nature. And I would watch YouTube videos of families that were traveling full time, and I love to travel, so I would imagine us traveling full time. I would imagine us having an RV. And what I wanted most was like whenever I thought about what way would I want to do it, I imagined us in a fifth wheel, traveling full time, and that ended up happening. It took a little while. I didn't ever imagine it would actually really happen, but I really, really wanted it. I really loved the idea of it. And so I just would sit and daydream that we were traveling full time in an RV. And sure enough, we got to do that. 4.5 years we lived in our RV, and it was lots of fun. We traveled across the country. We spent a summer in upstate New York. We spent a lot of time in California and Arizona. We got to see different family members. We got to take our house to the Grand Canyon. It was very, very cool. But that started in my imagination. And if you really think about it, any invention that has been made in history had to start in somebody's imagination, right? Because you don't create something without having an idea of it first. Like that's where everything starts is with the idea in your imagination, right? When I was a kid, that when I always loved reading. I've always loved to read. I'm a huge reader. And there was a point, I'm not sure exactly when, but there was a point, probably also while I was still working in insurance. I was over a decade in that career that I did not like. There was a point where I can remember thinking to myself, I just want a job where I can get paid to read. I just want to get paid to read. I love to read and I just want to get paid to read. Now, I didn't imagine exactly how that would go or what that might look like, but part of the work that I do right now is I have my emotional healing business, but I also have an education business. And in my education business, I teach kids online through a platform called Outschool. And I've been doing this for the last 5 years. And the class that I have that has like taken over everything, that has been my most popular class, is it's kind of like a role play, collaborative storytelling class. But what I do as the facilitator of this class is I read the kids' stories. So they write their stories in class together and I read them out loud and they love it. They love to hear their stories read out loud to them. I often will get to the end of class and we won't have gotten to read everything because we almost never get to read everything that shows up. And they're like, oh, please read mine. Please read mine. And I realized one day that I have a job that pays me to read. So that isn't necessarily what I thought of whenever I first started saying those words, whenever I first started imagining that, but it has come true in a way. And I think that if I was to start looking back at some different things in my life, I would see lots of other places like that where it's like, oh, this came about maybe in a little bit of a different way than I quite expected it, but this thing that I imagined actually came to pass. I told this story, I believe, with my partner, with Johnny, when he was sick. I imagined him walking out of the room and going, I feel great. I've never felt better. And one day he actually did that. He walked out. I feel great. I've never felt better. So I want you to look at what you're imagining for yourself right now in life. What are the things that you envision for yourself? Do you picture like the negative things happening? Do you picture terrible things happening to you? Do you picture yourself going into ruin? Do you worry about those things? Do you spend a lot of time thinking about those things? Don't. Stop. Or Do you imagine the things that you really want? Do you imagine the days going the way that you want them to? Spend your time imagining life the way you want it and see what happens. For one, it's enjoyable, right? Daydreaming is really more productive than we think about it, but you have to be daydreaming about the right things. So don't imagine the opposite things of what you want to happen. Imagine exactly what you want to happen in your life and see where it takes you. And if you've ever had something that you were imagining and picturing over and over and over again and had it actually come true, tell me about it. Let me know. I want to know. I want to hear your stories. I love stories like that. All right, that was day 6 of my 30 days of YouTube challenge. I will see you again tomorrow. Bye.